Well, why don't you say it?
Do I have to say it? You know what you were doing was wrong.
I wasn't doing anything. Paige was just telling me what happened.
She was telling you more than that. A lot more. And you just sat there and let her believe that you felt the same way.
You don't have any idea how I feel, Dad.
Oh, yes, I do. I've seen your feelings, Brian. I've seen them in your eyes every time you look at her. I've seen them every time you touch her. Well, it's got to stop, the look in your eyes and the touching. It's got to stop right now. Is that clear?
Excuse me, I think I'll go upstairs.
Did you forget what I said? I know it's been 3 years, Brian. Did you actually forget what I said?
How could I?
Well, from what I just saw in this room, you must have. So let me remind you again. Paige is your sister, Brian. Not your stepsister, but your flesh and blood sister. Now, for God's sake, Brian, remember that.
Dad, I haven't forgotten that, not for a minute. In fact, I haven't stopped thinking about it since you first told me.
Do you think I have? I didn't want to tell you, you know. I could see that things were getting out of hand. The way that you two kissed at Paige's 18th birthday party. I could see that there were feelings that just shouldn't have been there.
Well, whose fault was that? You and Mom are the ones that brought us together.
Well, of course we brought you together. It never occurred to either of us that stepchildren would fall in love. That's why we felt that you should know, Brian, that I was the father to you both. The real dad.
And just what would the real dad like me to do now? Don't bother answering, I already know. The real dad would like nothing better than for me to leave this house too, right?
Brian, I never wanted you to leave 3 years ago. That isn't why I told you the truth, to drive you away.
You really think I had any choice?
Yes, you had a choice. And the best one would have been to stay here and to face the reality of the situation.
Just the way you and Mom faced it?
All right, Brian. I know that we're more at fault than you are. I told you that 3 years ago. The mistakes that were made were ours, and unfortunately, we compounded them by not telling you the truth before you were both growing up.
Oh, let's face it, Dad, you would never have told me the truth. It was only because you were worried that Paige and I would have eloped or something, and no doubt produced idiot children.
Stop that, but I don't want to hear that kind of talk.
Dad, I remember every word of what you said 3 years ago. I've had plenty of time to remember them. You'd be surprised how much time a sailor has to do nothing but remember things.
All right. Maybe I didn't handle it very well. Maybe if I'd been more tactful, you wouldn't have run off. And broken your mother's heart.
I did your heart some good, though, didn't I?
No, of course not.
Oh, don't kid me, Dad. You probably breathed a big sigh of relief when you came home that night and Mom told you I was gone. Because that meant your problem was gone, too, right?
Brian, you are wrong. That is not the solution I wanted. I just wanted you to discourage the crush that Paige had on you.
Didn't it ever occur to you that I just might have been very much in love with her, too?
Yes, it occurred to me.
Well, don't worry about it. I don't feel that way anymore.
Don't you?
I can't feel that way, Dad. Don't you think I know that? I'm not allowed to feel anything for Paige but brotherly love.
Brian, I know it isn't easy. I know that emotions aren't like faucets. You just can't turn them on and off at will. Look, maybe I just didn't make this clear before. Let me do it now. What happened in this family wasn't your fault, Brian. None of it, or Paige's. Nola and I are completely to blame for the thoughtlessness, the ruthlessness, whatever you want to call it. But whether you believe it or not, we were very much in love, too. And that's why you were born. Long before Nola and I became husband and wife. You see, and that's why it was such a natural thing to do, to bring our family together under one roof.
The mansion of the damned.
Oh, don't say that, Brian. Well, we were happy once. We were close.
Closer than we thought.
Well, Brian, you were just kids, you and Paige. We never stopped to think that either of you grow up to think of each other as anything but brother and sister.
We always knew that we weren't.
All right, so now you know different.
Yes, I know. Paige still doesn't.
No, she doesn't.
Never thought of telling Paige, did you, Dad?
Do you want me to tell her, Brian?
That's not my choice to make.
Brian, I just didn't think she could handle a situation as well as you could.
Oh, why? Because I'm the man?
Because you're older. Because I thought you could understand these things better, without too much rancor.
You mean without running away from it, right?
Yes, I never thought you'd do that. And neither did Nola.
And is that why you never told Paige, Dad? Because you were afraid she might do the same thing? Pack a bag and leave the family mansion in the middle of the night? Oh, you'd really hate that, wouldn't you, Dad? To lose your little girl just for the sake of the truth.
Yes?
Paige, are you asleep?
Oh, no. No, Nola, come on in. I was just lying here resting, but I can't do that much longer because I'm just too excited.
I heard the wonderful news. Is it really true? Are you really out of danger at last?
Well, I'm sure of it. At last, I am finally sure that nobody is going to try to take my life again. Unless, of course, I make some new enemies. I seem to have a real knack for it.
Well, if it's really true, I'm so very happy for you, my dear. You've no idea how much I suffered with you and worried about you. It's been such a terrifying experience. How wonderful to feel that it's all over and done with.
I feel so free that I think I should have wings. That I could fly over this roof and then swoop down to the garden and pick flowers from midair. I sound like Peter Pan. Do you remember that school play?
Yes, of course. You were absolutely wonderful in it, Paige.
I hated that short haircut. I remember hiding from Brian so that he wouldn't see me with it.
Oh, Brian was absolutely enchanted with you when he saw it. I remember it as if it were yesterday. He told me what a marvelous actress he thought you were. In fact, I was quite annoyed with my little boy. He'd go to the movies and never say one word about what a good actress his mother might be.
Well, no, he never associated you with that woman on the screen, but I was on stage, in the flesh. You know.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you would have been wonderful in pictures, too, if you hadn't been a little less stubborn about accepting your father's help.
Stubbornness had nothing to do with it. It was just common sense. What would I do in front of a camera? I was much too inexperienced.
Well, there's only one way to get experience, isn't there? And here's one way.
What's this?
It's Mansion of the Damned. Have you read it yet?
No, not really.
Well, I have thoroughly. And every time I read it, I'm absolutely convinced that Patience is you.
Patience?
Uh-huh. Hester Atherton's young cousin, the beautiful, vivacious, charming Patience Revere. The one who steals Hester's fiancé right out from under her nose.
Nola, are you serious about me being in this movie?
Well, just think how much fun it would be, all of us working together. All of us. You, me, your father, Brian.
Brian? I haven't heard Brian say a word. Are you sure he wants to be involved with this project?
He would be, Paige. He'd love to be. And I'm sure the station would be glad to give him a month's leave of absence. If necessary, I could talk to Mrs. Dawn again. I mean, I'm sure there wouldn't be any trouble there. And he'd enjoy it so much. Imagine working as an associate producer or behind the camera.
But he hasn't said a word about it, Nola, not to me.
Well, he said something to me. He said the only thing that would make him really interested in this movie is if you were a part of it.